What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Busy Dad's Board Gaming. My name is Neil Odette, and today I'm going to be reviewing My Little Scythe, designed by Hobie Chow with his daughter Vienna Chow, and published by Stonemaier Games, who provided me with a copy of the game. So, let's dive right into it. In My Little Scythe, 1 to 6 players will be competing against one another in order to be the first to earn 4 trophies from the 8 possible categories. You'll do this by moving your seekers around the board, collecting apples and gems to deliver to the center of the board called Castle Everfree, as well as completing quests. There's also a good chance that you will run into other seekers who you will have to best in a pie fight. Throughout the game, you'll be using your faction's action token in order to perform actions on your turn. Each player has the same player mat and starts with the same basic actions. However, some actions can be upgraded, giving you further benefits. Anytime you wish to perform an action, on your turn, you take your action token and place it on any one of the round spaces on your player mat. The only catch being is that you cannot perform the same action 2 turns in a row. The game ends when a player earns their 4th trophy. And as I mentioned, there are 8 possible categories for which you can earn a trophy. If you'd like a full how to play, I'll leave links in the description below for that. But for now, let's get into the review. My first impressions of My Little Scythe were quite good. After all, I absolutely love Scythe, the game that this one is modeled after. Opening up the box, I felt the quality of the game I have come to expect from Stonemaier Games was there. Not only that, but the essence of Scythe itself was in part there as well, which was a big win for me. The game comes with 2 well-designed inserts, one for all the cards, tokens, and things of that nature, and one for all your seekers, the miniatures that you'll use in the game. On top of that, some spaces are intentionally left blank, as those are meant to house any expansions that would come later, such as My Little Scythe, Pie in the Sky. The standouts here in terms of quality are, of course, the miniatures. They're very well done, and the cutesy nature of them certainly fit the intent for the game, which is to be more or less a little bit more child-friendly than Scythe. The apples and gems in the game are also a nice touch, as well as the custom dice. The rest of the components in terms of quality are really nothing special or out of the ordinary. The only issue I have in terms of components is the main board itself. Now, this is big. If you're familiar with Scythe, you'll have an idea of just about how big this board is. If you're not familiar, well, let me tell you. It's roughly 30 inches by 20 inches. Not only that, but you have your player boards, pie, fight dials, and the main supply. So this takes up quite a bit of space. So just be aware of that if you're looking to purchase it. The artwork in Scythe was something I struggled with for a long time, and is really what kept me from actually buying it for a while. The artwork here in My Little Scythe, I think, is top notch. This is a game designed for gamers and families alike with kids ages 8+, and it shows. Each miniature looks rather cutesy and playful, as I mentioned, and for those that are good with a brush, or even if you're not, the models in this game are just dying to be painted, and it's something I look forward to doing with my kids when the time comes. The artwork in the rulebook is really well designed and done as well, and more or less everything about the game just gives off a bright, vibrant, come play with me sort of vibe. Especially with the bright pink portals and the magnificent Castle Everfree taking up the center. Learning the game, at least for me, was pretty easy. Coming from Scythe, I already knew the core concepts of how resources worked, as well as the combat, which in My Little Scythe is referred to as pie fights. Basically, in a nutshell, this is Scythe. And if you've played that before, you'll have no issues learning this one. And heck, Even if you know nothing about Scythe, My Little Scythe is still incredibly easy to learn with lots of explanations and pictures in the rulebook. I will say though that I'm not much of a solo player and I got this game solely to play with my kids. So I can't speak to the solo mode on this one. Solo was a little bit of a sticking point for me in Scythe because there was a lot of iconography to deal with. But as for this one, I can only imagine that once again, it's streamlined for its intended audience. As for teaching the game, it really wasn't all that bad. Keep in mind, I taught this to a 7-year-old, and although he needs to be reminded from time to time on certain aspects of the game, he does pretty well on his own. Just don't expect our little friends to be masterminds in tactics and planning. For them, it's all about the fun of it, which there is plenty to go around here. The interactions in the game are probably some of my favorite as a dad. Although there is combat in the game, it's called a pie fight, which to a 7-year-old sounds a heck of a lot more fun than a battle or just combat. Although boiled down, that's exactly what it is. Likewise, losing a pie fight, aside from losing control of any resources in that secret space, isn't that detrimental, as you head back to your base camp and are rejuvenated, which means you get yourself either a magic spell or 2 pies. You also get to remove your action token from your player mat, allowing you to take any action on your next turn, including the one you had just taken on a previous turn. Doing this makes the thought of losing a pie fight a little more enjoyable for anyone playing the game. Further to that, another thing that makes player interaction quite enjoyable is the idea of friendship in the game. The friendship mechanic, as well as many other game mechanics in play, are great stepping stones for kids learning not only the game, but life skills as well. If you're too unfriendly, you could drop below 3 friendship, and when below 3, you're unable to earn any trophies. It isn't until you get back above 3 friendship that you can start earning trophies again. Also, when using the seek action and placing apples and gems on the board, if you place any of those resources in an opponent's space, effectively helping them out, you gain friendship for doing that. And once you get 8 friendship, you get a trophy for yourself. So the fact that this game is literally teaching kids to be nice to people, and in doing so you can be rewarded, is great to see as a parent. Now, as much of this review is in context of playing with younger children, let's talk about turn length and just waiting in general. I've played this as a 2-player game a few times with my 7-year-old, and we do pretty well. My turns are pretty quick, and I'm usually fine to sit back and watch my son ponder for a few minutes about the best course of action, and sometimes helping him along the way a little. We've also played at higher player counts, and that's when it starts to get a little bit sticky. For adults, it's absolutely fine. Turns are quick. But for kids, they tend not to want to wait for 4 or 5 other people to go before they get to go again. But all in all, as turns only tend to take a minute or 2, it's really not that bad, especially considering some actions could relate directly to them, like when you seek and place resources in their space or decide to start a pie fight. There is plenty enough going on that players at the table, both young and old, get to participate more often than not. Which brings me to my next point, overall length of the game. This will depend on the age and experience of all players, but I would suggest setting aside at least an hour. With that though, it is easy enough to just decide partway through the game, you know what, in this game you only need 3 trophies to win. Or if you really want a short game, just 2 trophies. That sort of thing is easy enough to modify on the fly that you can just judge the mood at the table and decide in the moment if you want to play a full game or make it a little bit shorter. Now, let's talk replayability. This is where the game is a little bit worse off than its predecessor. That being said, I actually think not only is this a great game, but it was probably done intentionally. As a big hobby gamer, I love games like Scythe that's or Spirit Island, where there is so much variability that it's highly unlikely that you'll ever play the same game or even close to the same game twice. However, in a game like this, especially for me, who only plays this with kids, I think it's important that it remains largely the same play after play. This allows kids to grow with the game and learn from it as much as possible. As I said, there are a lot of mechanics in this game that are going to teach kids and parents alike the fundamentals of board games, such as combat, player actions, resources management, simple delivery systems, and much more. As for the gameplay, again, much like replayability, it's meant to be simple and easy to learn, and it exceeds in that without any issue. The resource management and delivery systems are fine. The pie fights are 100% the same as Scythe combat systems, so familiar territory there. The quests are fun to interact with and have cute art that's relevant to the possible options on the card. And the player board with the different actions are also just okay, speaking from a gamer standpoint. So as a gamer, this is a game I would bring out on game nights with my gamer friends from time to time, maybe. But as a parent, this has been the go-to game anytime we sit down to play games with the kids. Not only that, my 7-year-old asks to play quite often, which to me is a win in my books. Overall, I'm a big fan of this as a family game. If you're a gamer with kids around the ages of 8 to 14 and you're looking to get them excited about your hobby, I think this is probably a must-buy. If you're just a person who is looking to get started into hobby board gaming space yourself, this could also be good for you, as it will teach you some of the basics without being overbearing or confusing. But there you have it. That was my review of My Little Scythe. If you want to see my how to play video, I will link it in the description below. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified on any future videos. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Links for everything also in the description below. But until next time, thanks for watching and happy gaming.